It's the Brad and John Show.
John, you're going to be proud of me. This time I'm going to get the month correct. It's April 28th, 2025. This is B Block, Bravo Block, which means we start at right around 7:20. Now, John, I'm going to say that you may be incorrect because I just Googled Canadian tuxedo, and according to dictionary.com, it says a denim jacket worn with a pair of jeans.
Yeah, well, that's all denim. That's a denim jacket and matching denim jeans.
But it's not like a onesie. I mean,
wait. You're saying that what you wore in the 70s was like a onesie, like a one piece, like?
Yeah, it was like coveralls. It was like it was denim.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you meant like a jacket with jeans.
No. I mean, this was like.
Oh, Brad, are you serious?
Yes, this was a fashion statement. When men wore this, where it was like coveralls, but it was made out of denim. And literally, it zipped up the front. You stuck your legs in it. And then you put your arms in it, and you pulled it up around you, and you zipped up the front. And if you had to go to the bathroom, I think mine actually had a two-way zipper. There was a zipper that went up from the bottom, and there was another one that went down from the top. If you know what I'm saying. So in other words, if you instead of unzipping all the way down, you could unzip a little bit up, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow. Okay. Well, I was just picturing the wrong thing there, Brad.
No, yeah.
It's hard for me to visualize you in all denim.
It was a lot of people back then as well, too. I think at the time I think I was in my 300-pound version of Brad back then. Okay. Over the weekend, I'm listening to NPR, okay? First mistake. And they have this dude from Canada, and he's saying all these bizarre, weird things about how once upon a time we had a friend in the United States, and now it's not there anymore. At one point in time, he said that he no longer crosses the border into America. Do you know why?
Oh, no. We're going to miss him.
Do you know why that is, John?
Oh, why is that?
Because he said he's afraid that, and I remember this almost word for word, they would, as he's crossing the border, they would demand to see his phone, and they would see things in his phone that were derogatory toward the President of the United States, and he would be arrested and thrown in jail. And I'm going like,
that's a pretty good idea. Why don't border agents start doing that? And you know what? You could say, hey, unless there's something bad on your phone, you have nothing to worry about.
Well,
right?
But then he goes further, and he says that, I can't remember what he was. He was either he's used to be like a big time government official, and now he's like some kind of a author or something like that. He's a Canadian dude, okay? And so then he said that he went to a symposium years ago about the relationship between Russia and Ukraine, and he said that he felt now, after he attended that symposium, and they talked about the fact that this was before Russia ever invaded Ukraine, and he talked about there was an uneasy peace between Russia and Ukraine, and because of the fact that there were citizens of Ukraine who spoke Russian and some of them spoke Ukrainian, and there may be a day when the Russians try to reunify Ukraine as part of Russia, and he said they're afraid the same thing is going to happen in Canada, where the United States is going to militarily invade Canada under Trump and take over Canada. And I'm going like, OMG. I'm thinking to myself, I've heard some weird stuff.
Yeah, that's not fear-mongering at all. Yeah.
Have you?
But I mean, so here's a really elementary question. If Trump was this deranged or had that kind of a plan, why didn't he do it during his first term?
I see. I get people that say, "Oh, you're nothing but a Trump fan." Okay,
you're such a Trumper, Brad.
I'm not. I think he's made a lot of mistakes in this tariff thing. A lot of mistakes. And once again, that's like maybe that was the topic du jour of the weekend at KWMU, because they had all these, for example, they had their one reporter go out and did a 10-minute little vignette on this couple that makes whiskey and the fact that, oh my God, the tariffs have killed them because they used to get their bottles made in the United States, but the problem with that is the American maker that makes bottles is now deluged with orders from other companies in the United States who used to get their bottles from China, And now they have to get their bottles from America, and because they're a small potatoes company, they don't get their bottles anymore from the American company. And guess what happened? Because of the fact that they could not get their bottles from the American company, which they've been getting for years, because of the fact that now they're a low volume seller and the bottle companies put them in the bottom of the list, and they're delayed 3 and 4 and 5 months, they're now buying their bottles from China, and they're paying 125% tariff. And it's they might as well just go ahead and pay the tariff, because at least they can make their liquor and sell it. I'm going like, okay, whatever,
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of hard luck stories, right? Depending on how far these go.
But see, I think, was it you that said this? Somebody that I know said the reason that are all these changes that Trump comes out with is what, Day of Independence, whatever. And we're going to charge this people. He had the chart he showed. This guy, where this country, where they were charging us 24%, so we're going to charge them 48%. That kind of a thing. Okay, don't you think that all these changes he made since then are his friends calling him up saying, Donald, you know what? I might not be able to renew my membership in Mar-a-Lago because of the fact that when you did that tariff, it cost my company $42 million. And Donald Trump saying, oh, okay, we'll do a carve-out for you. And then another friend calls him, hey, Donald, don't you think that's happening?
No, I don't think it's that haphazard. I think that the team probably went into it knowing, okay, these are the scenarios. Here's where we're probably going to get pushback. Here's where we can make concessions. And Brad, also, one of the things you might notice, one of the questions you wouldn't ask me on Monday would be like, John, everybody last week is freaking out about the stock market and their retirement funds. Is this the time to get out of the market? Brad, in the last 5 days, the NASDAQ, which are the younger companies you could think of, most people have significant exposure to the NASDAQ. NASDAQ last week, in the last 5 trading days, was up 8.29%. Now, you know what I always say, Brad, which is you got to avoid the freakouts, particularly in an era where we have very high market volatility. But it's funny that over the weekend, we didn't hear anything from NPR about people freaking out at the end of last week because I can't retire anymore because my 401k is gone because of Trump. When the market goes up 10% in a week, we don't hear many of those stories, do we, Brad?
Well, John, first off, you talked about freak out, and you didn't say it had anything to do with Diddy, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's a freak off, Brad.
Oh, freak off. I was close. Okay, well, John, once again, it's like, gloom and doom on NPR. There's never anybody who's like, this is Jim. He's a heterosexual white guy, and he's really happy. He lives in a suburb of St. Louis, and he's got a wife and 3 kids, and he's got 2 boys and a girl, and they do identify 2 boys and a girl. And he has a job, and his wife is a homemaker, and she loves staying at home all day, making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the kids. You never had that story on NPR.
Yeah, because that's not dramatic. Oh, the biggest controversy is that an umpire blew a call in the Little League game. That was their biggest controversy last week. They're not mad about anything. They don't like the cost of living, but they're not mad at the world. They don't wake up and want to listen to 3 hours of talk radio in Missouri, where Republicans own the governorship, the Senate, the House, the presidency federally. Why do we need people yelling about how angry they are for 3 hours every morning, Brad?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm not talking about any other radio show. I'm just asking, why would people be angry for 3 hours every weekday when Republicans control Missouri?
Are you talking about Tracy's station again?
Not at all. I literally did not have them in mind. No, there's probably other stations that do that though, Brad.
Are you talking about the refugee station?
I'm absolutely not.
Are you talking about the Patriot station?
No, I'm talking about the little old lady that broadcasts up on the little mountain and Washmo, Diane Ream Jones. That's who I'm talking about, Brad.
She's a wonderful woman. Why would you say that?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, listen, it's the last Monday of the month. That means she has the president of the Hamburg Economic Development Committee coming in, talking about what they're doing in Hamburg.
That's at 9:00. Okay. Talking finances. Another thing I heard over the weekend, which I thought was interesting. They've done this, and these are a bunch of economists, and they have done all this interesting things on inflation and what things cost in. They pulled the year 1970, and they said, so that would be what? 70 would be what? 45 years, is that right? 45 years ago?
Yeah,
1970? Okay, so they've come up with No, actually, it's 55 years. It would be 55 years, wouldn't it? Wouldn't 70 would be, yeah, it would be.
And 1970 would be 55. Yeah, I thought you meant mid-70s. Boy, I'm using myself as a gauge there, and I'm way wrong. You're right, Brad. It would be more than 50 years.
55 years ago. And they said, we're going to find out the thing that went up the most in price. And you'll never guess what it was. All the different cars, things you could buy at the grocery store, things you could buy for furniture, all the crazy stuff. What was the one thing that went up that had the highest rate of inflation? Guess what?
Would it be milk?
No.
Is it a consumer staple?
No, it is not. I guess would be sort of considered a service industry. Well, maybe not even. Really.
I don't have any idea, Brad. What is it?
College tuition. They said.
Oh yeah, okay.
Nothing that has gone up more in price over the past since 1970 than since college tuition. And what's interesting was they also talked about the fact that there are people on the other side of that equation saying that not only does the college tuition go up more than anything as far as inflation is concerned, but it's also less effective at getting you a job than ever before. I'm thinking to myself, isn't that interesting?
Because it's a commodity, right? Like once something becomes commoditized, I pronounced that incorrectly. When something becomes a commodity and it becomes common and everybody it's the cliche, Brad, that everybody's heard in the early 2000s. If you were a young person in the early 2000s, you heard, look, too many people have a bachelor's degree. You need to get a master's. And I know people who bought into that. I know particularly women that I worked with that bought into that were like, I'm nothing with just a bachelor degree. I have to set myself apart from Katie and Susie and Ashley. You got to go to WashU and get an MBA and make something of myself. They were already earning near six figures, but they thought, I can't be like Katie and Kate and Ashley. They only have undergraduate degrees. I got to be better.
Okay, changing topics once again. Adam Schiff, who Trump calls watermelon head. Have you heard him call him watermelon head?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Is he the guy that likes the that had the thing with the spy? Was that Schiff?
No. That was Swalwell.
Well, that was Swalwell or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I got us off track.
Adam Schiff used to be a rep. He's the guy that spearheaded the impeachment against Trump, and he's also the guy who is now a U.S. senator. He was a U.S. rep. He was a U.S. senator. Okay. Here's the headline of the story. Adam Schiff reveals what a San Francisco cashier bluntly told him about Dems. He warns party has, quote, major problem. Okay, this is actually sort of a funny story. It's a true story. He's on the air with Bill Maher. Maher, however you say his name. I always get it. I want to say, is it Maher or Maher?
Just Maher.
Maher. Okay, Bill Maher. Okay, he's on the air. He's doing a podcast or he's on his HBO show. I don't know which one it was. Sometimes they're the same. Okay? And he's talking with Adam Schiff, and Adam Schiff said he had this come to Jesus moment when he was recently in San Francisco. And he tells the story about how people warn him, oh, crime's so bad in San Francisco, you got to watch it. They're going to break into your car if you're in San Francisco. So apparently he has a rental car and he's driving around in San Francisco and he stops somewhere and they break into his car and they steal all his luggage. So he has nothing but the clothes in his back. He has no toiletries. He has nothing. No new underwear or any of that kind of stuff. So it's apparently late at night. So he goes to a Target store in San Francisco. I don't know where you find a Target store in San Francisco, probably somewhere out in the suburbs because I doubt they have them in the inner city. And first he marvels, actually not marvels, but he's upset with the fact that he has to find someone to unlock the cases where all the toiletries and things like that are now residing because we can't have them out in the open because they just get stolen because remember
like if they're razors or anything valuable, they'll be stolen.
Right, or anything. Soap, hair gel, stuff like that. So as he's complaining about this and he finds somebody and they open up the cabinets for him, and so he goes up to the checkout and he's talking to the cashier. And remember, the title of the story is, the headline is, Adam Schiff reveals what a San Francisco cashier bluntly told him about Dems. The cashier did not know who he was. And he remarks to the fact that he's in from out of town. I don't know where he lives, but he's not. I don't think it's San Francisco. He's in from out of town. Somebody broke into his car and they stole his stuff. So he's here at this Target store buying stuff so he has at least enough he can brush his teeth and comb his hair and stuff like that in the morning. And she remarks, well, it's all due to those AH and A is arse, and H is whole. AH Democrats who won't prosecute criminals. That's why we have to lock up everything here at Target. And life's just gone to hell in a handbasket in San Francisco because of those AH Democrats. So
wow. Okay, and then what happened?
Well, this is his come to Jesus moment where he literally says, okay, I got it. The Democrats have a horrible image. We have to change things. So, it took a dude. First off, I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's a senator. Doesn't he have like staff that just like follows him around? That if he says,
yeah, but that wouldn't make a good story. So he has to make this up.
I mean, if he wants go down the street and get me a cappuccino at Starbucks, and I mean, isn't it like when by the time you get to a senator, don't you have like people that just do everything for you? That like give you pedicures?
Yeah,
and things
you
like
have
that?
errand boys and maybe errand girls.
Right.
Yeah,
or like in Jefferson City's case, where the lady leaves her purse at the restaurant, you have her assistant go back to the restaurant.
Yeah, her staff would go back and then threaten somebody with a Glock. Yeah, exactly. But back on track, Brad. Your point is that this was his come to, well, they can't say come to Jesus, come to Mother Nature or some higher powers.
Yes, it was
right?
It was a revelation. It was like an epiphany for Adam Schiff that there's a crime problem, because it's not a crime problem when your stuff doesn't get stolen, but when your stuff gets stolen, it's a crime problem. And
then it's a crime problem. And what's the cliche, Brad? Which is a liberal is a conservative who got mugged.
Right.
And in this case, I'm sorry, a conservative, I got that wrong. A conservative is a liberal who got mugged. In this case, I mean, we're never going to push Schiff to libertarianism or conservatism, but at least he realizes now that, okay, maybe things are out of control. What would be so funny, Brad? I would love to work in loss prevention for Target and go back, and maybe Adam Schiff actually walked into a Target. But could you imagine trying to look at the security camera and see, okay, did he really actually interact with a human at all? Or did he just manufacture the story up because it's interesting for early morning radio shows and television shows?
I'll read you the first paragraph of the story. Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat, California, offered a dire warning to fellow Democrats, recalling an exchange he had with a Target cashier in San Francisco, insisting his party has, quote, a major problem. That was his quote. It took him getting, his stuff getting boosted and him going to a Target at 10 o'clock at night to realize there's a major problem. So does that show you how insulated our public officials really are, especially when you get to...
Yeah, it does. They have a layer around them. That also shows that Brad Hildebrand was paying attention to pop culture in the 90s, because you used the phrase boosted, Brad. There are young men that listen to our show that were born in the 2000s that probably don't know that boosted was like a really popular term.
Well, now they put a turbocharger in their car and it's boosted. That's what they know now. Okay.
I guess so.
Okay, we have to take a break.